What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday night. Today, we got a lot to talk about as the NBA Finals continue. Game 2 was yesterday. The Celtics take control with a 2-0 series lead. Also, we had coaching news today. Dan Hurley spurns Los Angeles Lakers, which is pretty funny as a Blazer fan. I enjoyed that. Also, we're going to revisit the Drew trade, as there was some discussion on NBA Twitter the past couple of days about the Blazers' haul in that trade. So we're going to take a look back at that. Also, we're going to talk about the massive workout that the Blazers have planned tomorrow. We're going to touch upon those names. And also, at the end, we'll have a mock draft. It'll probably just be the lottery, and we'll touch a little bit about some of the latest on some of these prospects, whether their stocks are trending upwards or downwards or wherever. And we'll talk about maybe some players that are linked to some of the teams in the lottery. The Blazers, of course, with 2 lottery picks. Eric, how's the start of your week going?
Oh, it's going okay. I had a really long day at work today, but happy to be here for the show and talking to you. How are you, Tori?
I'm doing good, man. I postponed this stream a little bit just to watch the end of that Mariners game. If you're a Mariners fan, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. Mariners down 4-0 in the 8th inning, score 4 in the 8th, and they had a walk-off grand slam. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. It would have been bad to lose.
The rye bread and the mustard.
Yeah, I love that. Would have been bad to lose to like the worst team in baseball at home. But the Mariners are going to give me a heart attack one way or another, just as long as it's a good heart attack, right? So, but I'm excited to talk about basketball, man. I'm excited to talk about basketball because, despite it being the offseason, every stream I've gone into it, like, man, there's a lot to talk about. Of course, we got the finals, but we have this Lakers coaching search thing going on. Got some narratives to talk about, but this draft is just fascinating to see play out in the lead up to it, as well as keeping track of these workouts is a lot of fun as well. So I'm super excited to talk about some of those players. Shout out to JP Savvy, member for 6 months, says, sorry for not being to get going, being showered with booze there in his old home TD Garden. And now this... Are we really?
You're cutting out really bad. Yeah.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, weird.
Cutting out a little bit. But...
Chat, we good? We good?
I have a white screen.
I don't know if a white screen is good.
I think we might be okay.
Might be. Chat, let us know if we're good. Okay. Yeah, chat, so I got new modem, new router, new cables, new everything. Okay, I don't know. There's no reason internet should be this bad in the PDX era. Yeah, I don't know why my internet's just crappy. I mean, at least I've tried everything that I could try at this point Spencer says he's in Vancouver. That is in the PDX area. Anyway, hopefully we're good for the rest of the stream. We always try and soldier through it. I don't know. Celtics take control game 1. Eric, your thoughts on that?
I was really hoping in game 2 Dallas would come out and even the series. Yeah, I mean, they could still win both games at home, I guess, but Boston just looks like the better team right now. Despite them shooting like crap from 3 last game, they still got the dub because of their defense. So yeah, it's just kind of a bummer letdown that the finals have gone to 2-0. Just hoping like heck. I don't really care who wins. I just want the series to be competitive. So I'm hoping Dallas wins both games at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Dallas isn't living off the lob like they did in previous series. Kyrie hasn't gotten going. The Celtics are just playing better defense than I think the Mavericks have seen all postseason long. And I know the Timberwolves were a great defensive team, but they didn't look as good defensively against this Dallas team as Boston has. Now, then again, Dallas is not making threes. And at the end of the day, that is the great equalizer, or it will be the thing that does you in if you miss all your threes. And Dallas just, unfortunately for their sake, has not made threes in the series. Hopefully they make threes going back to Dallas because I would love for the series to go long. I hope that it's not a 3-0 series lead for Boston. Dallas, of course, has to win Game 3. I also feel like they have to win Game 4. They have to take care of home court advantage going back to Dallas. If Boston gets one of those games, it's going to be extremely, extremely tough for Dallas. So, fingers crossed, want the series to be competitive. I thought it was going to be a little bit more competitive. I thought Dallas was going to be able to steal one in these first couple of games, and they haven't.
Well, it would help if Kyrie played better.
Man, I mean, when you got Derek White, when you got Drew Holiday, when you got guys like that, they're just being physical with Kyrie, and they're not letting him turn the corner, and they're just being solid, man. Very impressed with how they've defended Kyrie. And, yeah, it's part of the reason why he's struggling. I also wonder if... I don't think the boos are getting in his head, but I do wonder if that might be the case.
You know, Kyrie's 0-12 against the Celtics since he left there.
Is he really? Okay, maybe they are getting in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they might be.
Well, he needs to get his first win against them next game. He can't go 0-13 or else the series is probably over. And then, the Celtics' rival on the other side of the country, the Lakers, made a monumental pitch to Dan Hurley, head coach of the UConn Huskies, who have won the last 2 NCAA tournament championships. And Dan Hurley today, it was confirmed, turns them down. Turns down the Lakers to stay in College State. UConn can't fault him at all because UConn is giving him a big pay raise and he's won 2 straight championships there, so obviously wants to try and three-peat, which would be pretty cool. Has some talent coming in, but it's going to be a brand new team. But he is, I mean, in my opinion, the best college coach right now. Just what he's done the last 2 years has been very, very impressive. And he could have gone to the Lakers, could have gotten paid a lot of money, but there was a lot to that job that I don't think appealed to many coaches. I think there's a lot of coaches out there, especially if they're in a good situation. Going from a good situation to coaching LeBron normally is not going to be an upgrade. LeBron churns through coaches like crazy. And then the Lakers, even before they had LeBron, churned through coaches like crazy. So you're leaving a really good situation, a place where you've built up a program into being the best college basketball program in the country right now. And you're going to a Lakers team with, you know, who knows, is he going to have to play LeBron's son if they draft him like 10, 12 minutes a game? You know, he's going to get blamed the moment they start to struggle. LeBron, of course, is a bit, I don't know what the word is. He's kind of like a player's coach himself. So there's a lot that goes into that wasn't appealing, it seemed like, to Dan Hurley, and he turns them down. Eric, your thoughts?
Well, I could also make a case that going back is kind of foolish, too. The way college sports are heading, it's basically the Big Ten and the SEC that are going to be making lion's share of the money moving forward. And I know basketball has traditionally been a thing where anyone can win. Obviously, they've been in the Big East, so they haven't been in one of those conferences and have been fine. I just wonder moving forward as we continue to progress towards NIL paying players, and then also it appears as if in the very near future you're going to need 20 to 30 million a year every college that's participating in athletics just to pay players as kind of like employees based on some of the lawsuits that are out there and the settlements that are already starting to happen. And you have to back pay other players for NIL and some of that kind of stuff that are winning in courts as well. I just am wondering how UConn keeps it going. And maybe he's got such an ego that he thinks none of that stuff can bring him down, which he might be right about because he's a dang good coach and I think can do a lot of things. But college sports is just in a weird position right now.
Yeah, I just don't think that stuff is going to be as monumental for college basketball as it is for college football. And especially in college basketball, you can get some older transfers that can really make a difference, but maybe aren't like the star freshman, flashy name, going to the league type of guy. But we've seen experience do really, really well in the NCAA tournament in the past few years. So with the transfer portal being the wild, wild west, I think UConn will be just fine. The Big East is a basketball conference, or so I'm told. And, it's I think they'll be just fine. And I don't know, Gonzaga with all this going on has a top 5 roster going into next year because they get Ryan Nembhard and Graham E.K. and Michael Ajayi. And there's people here that might not know any of those names other than Nembhard simply because his brother balled out for the Pacers this postseason. But that's going to be a very formidable team. Like, I think you can stay at the top of college basketball a little bit easier with all that stuff going on, despite not being a Big Ten or SEC conference, than is the case in college football, where it's basically just those two conferences right now.
I agree with you in the short term. Long term, though, when some of those TV deals kick in for the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten, and they're making close to $100 million a year, and you're making like 10 to 15 million a year in the Big East, or if that in the WCC. I just wonder how much that's going to change the dynamic, and if we'll start to see a shift towards those conferences being superior in some of the other sports that they're not traditionally superior, just because of the sheer volume of money that they're raking in.
Should that happen, I still think Danny Hurley would have opportunities to jump to the league. I think he's proven himself to the point where if things do go that way, he'll have an opportunity to go coach in the league, simply because what he does schematically is very impressive, and it's kind of next generation basketball. Like, the offense he runs is like a pro style system. I've always been impressed watching them play. Like, man, that looks like a good NBA offense. It doesn't look like a college offense. Part of it is having the players to play it, but part of it is developing the players to play it and teaching the players how to execute that type of system successfully. So I think if he could do it on a college level to get them running the type of offense that they've run lately, I think he can have similar success in the NBA. I think a lot of college coaches struggle to translate to the NBA, just like a lot of college prospects struggle to translate to the NBA. But I think Danny Hurley is built to be a good coach no matter what level he's coaching at, and I think he'd still have opportunities there down the line.
Yeah, I agree with that in terms of X's and O's. I do wonder if he yells a lot and he gets in people's faces. He chews players out and stuff like that. I kind of wonder how that would play, like with LeBron and Anthony Davis and stuff like that, or whatever team he would end up on. But for those saying he's smart to stay in college, or like he could always go on to a different college eventually, like why he could have just gotten guaranteed $70 million and still gone back to college if that failed. and gotten pretty much any job he wanted when going back to college. So he did.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers offered him $11.6 million a year. Apparently, Kentucky offered him $11 million a year. So sounds like it's similar money between college and the NBA. Now Kentucky is Kentucky, and they are an SEC program and one of the blue bloods of college basketball. But I mean, he's gonna have his opportunity at a number of good jobs down the line. So I like that he went back. I like that he spurned the Lakers because I think
yeah, of course.
It's always funny to see the Lakers get spurned, right? The big market expects to get everything they want, and when they don't, us little markets up here in Portland just get to laugh at it, right? Because we talked about it last stream. Danny Hurley would never come to the Blazers, right? He wouldn't want this job. You're talking about the glitz and the glamour of LA with a storied franchise. Unfortunately, we are not that. So we just get to laugh when they miss out.
I don't know. When Chauncey was hired, he said he wanted to go to a storied franchise, and that's why he chose Portland. So,
hey, our stories are a lot of playoff appearances. Unfortunately, not a lot of rings to go with it. And a good old Game 7 choke job. A lot of pain in our stories, unfortunately. So it's always good to laugh at the Lakers' pain on the other side of it. Shout out to Michael Kroll, $5 donation, says, as the Mavs GM, we are not worried. You're not worried about the Mavs, man? I'd be worried if I were you. Thank you for the donation. Shout out to Roger, $2 donation, says, how do you think Zach Edey would fit on the Blazers? Oh, man. Pick and roll defense, overall defense, very, very scared of how bad it might be with him. Offensively, as a pick and roll big and as a massive screen setter, I think he would fit in quite nicely. But the defense is a major, major issue.
Yeah, well, you're now Zach Edey's #1 fan, right? I think I heard that somewhere.
Who said that?
You're like defending him now and.
Yeah, because I have him as a late first instead of like
you moved him up into your late first round, and now you're like, oh, you guys are all way too low on Edey in the group chat.
Dude, I see stuff in our group chat. So me and Eric are in a group chat. We cheat on you with another group chat. Sorry. Man, okay. Some of our community, some of the people that participate in this live chat, some of the people that we talk to on Twitter are too low, Eric, and you're one of them. You're a little too low on Zach Edey, in my opinion. I think he's at least a guaranteed backup center, probably, and he's maybe for limited minutes. But if you can get that in this draft, I feel like, I don't know, that's better than like the 45th best prospect or whatever.
All right.
But we'll see. See, here's the thing: if he plays well, I can say, "See, we were a little too low on him." But if he plays bad, I can say, "See, I was low on him too." So it's just called a. You hate that. You hate that hedging your bets down the middle. Dude. I can go either way.
All right,
I am bold. Jalen Tyson's gonna be a freaking stud. Okay, there you go. There you go. Unfortunately, every other prospect that I was bold about wasn't feeling bold themselves and went back to college. So I have Jalen Tyson and Baylor Shireman isn't going to suck.
All right.
Oh, man. Trevor says Torrey fell for the propaganda of popular opinion. No way. Popular opinion has him like NBA Twitter guys have him #1. A lot of people have him in the lottery. I have him like 26th, 27th.
I forgot who it was, but one of the NBA guys said he wasn't going to fall past 19 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Toronto. I don't think he falls past 19. His range is higher than where I have him at, even though I'm a little higher on him than you.
Yeah.
I don't even like saying I'm higher on him. I just feel like I'm not as low on him as you. It's just,
yeah, I know. I just wanted to give you crap because you were starting to defend him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I knew you were trying to set it up to where you could play both sides.
No, that was a joke. I don't care about playing both sides. But yeah. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I can get a little too all in or all out on a prospect, and I'm trying not to do that. And with a guy like Edey, it's like we're just all out on him. But The dude's 7'4", sets great screens, should be a good pick and roll big, should finish well on the interior, should control the boards. Like, that's some good traits to have. Defensively, defense is going to be a massive issue. But if it's a little bit less of an issue, if he's just below average, he's probably a pretty decent player, right? Like a decent to good backup big man. Where should that be ranked in this draft? I don't know. But it's like, he's going to be fun to watch. He's going to be intriguing to watch, just because he's a unique player. And there's just a lot of guys in this draft where I look at him, it's just like, man, is he really going to be anything unique or anything special or have any advantages at the next level? Mm-hmm. So it's the constant battle that we wage with figuring out how we should evaluate prospects, because it's never a sure thing.
I'll say this, though. If I'm playing against Zach Edey, I'm running pick and roll 100% of the time with whoever he's guarding. And I'm just putting him in, trying to get him switched onto a guard every single time.
Yeah. You know what the good thing is, though, with him being a drop big? That's the one scheme where you don't have to switch. You just simply go over the screen and force the guy downhill. You just sell out over the screen and force the guy downhill towards the big. The problem is, we switch out of... that's what you're supposed to do, okay? Portland sucks, so we switch out of drop. But theoretically, it's like, if a guard...
can't get over the screen.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Theoretically, you shouldn't have to switch a whole lot if you're just dropping Edey and the guard has to go over the screen and just stay on the guy's back and force him downhill to Edey. I mean, that's going to be the only pick and roll coverage he can play. But if he has guards that can get through screens and actually force them downhill to him, I don't know if it's that bad.
But that's why I'm lower on him than consensus, is because there are a few teams that you could maybe justify that. Same with how I feel about Klingon to a lesser extent. But like, there are some teams that I think he'd be fine on. But a team like Portland, man, we're probably the worst in the league at navigating screens and pick and roll defense, and you just throw him into that.
I don't want him for the
see how he just gets cooked, right?
Yeah. Like, there's a difference between my rankings for my big board and my rankings for the Blazers. Maybe one of these streams I'll introduce like my Blazers big board. Mm-hmm. Because it's different than my actual big board.
Yeah.
And every team has their own big board for their needs, right? And my big board is just based on, like, in a vacuum, who I think the better prospects are, right? Like, in an average situation, on average, who I think are the better prospects. Anyway, thank you for the donation, Roger.
We'll talk more about Edey in a minute.
Yeah, maybe not too much more. We got other big names to touch upon with this massive workout coming up. Shout out to Oscar, $5 donation, says, Hurley waiting for Chauncey to get fired and mold our young team, LOL. He would be perfect to take our rebuild in the right direction. Oh, man, I would trade Chauncey for him in a heartbeat, man. In a heartbeat.
Jody's going to pay him $15 million a year.
Yeah, Jody's not paying him $15 million a year, though. She's happy paying Chauncey $2 million a year. So, we get Chauncey. We got Chauncey. Anyway. Next topic, Eric. Let's revisit the Drew Holiday trade. So you listed this as a potential topic, so I'll let you lead this one.
Yeah, so this is a hot topic, obviously, with Drew playing well in Game 2. He hasn't played great at times in the playoffs, but, obviously Boston won 64 games this year. They've been a really good team, the best team all year. And so Drew's about to win a title. I see some people joking that Joe Cronin should get a ring when that happens for helping them out.
For wanting, so he had Drew give him a list of teams and then traded him to one of the teams on that list. He tried to make sure he was sending Drew somewhere he wanted to go.
Yeah.
Funny. Anyway, go
on. So a lot of... this isn't even like Portland stuff, but a lot of national people are starting to say that Boston fleeced Portland in that trade and all that kind of stuff. They gave up 2 injured players, which is true, I guess.
Yeah.
And but you can also argue, the Golden State pick. Many thought that was going to be in the 20s, and it didn't end up being there. We end up with albeit the last lottery pick, still a lottery pick. I think we all would have taken the 14th pick when we made that trade. If you could say it would be 14, or you could take your chances, I think we'd all take 14, right? And then, especially since it was considered, or it was protected top 4. So if they were like really, really bad and everyone was hurt, we probably wouldn't get it. So I think we'd take 14, and then we still have a 2029 first round pick unprotected from Boston. So that could be good, or it could be
probably
bad.
Going to be bad.
Yeah. But you'd think, 5 years from now, Porzingis, Drew Holiday's probably retired by then. Porzingis, who knows if he can even walk by then.
They still got
Brown
Tatum and Brown, you know what I mean?
Peyton Pritchard, your boy.
I mean, they still got Tatum and Brown, though. Mm-hmm. And they'll find ways to build around him, because that's what they've done. Like, they know how to build a roster. So I don't expect that pick to be good, but maybe. You never know.
In my opinion, this is going to sound like it's not me talking. I still think the trade was good in hindsight. Like, even if looking back on it, the trade itself, I think, was fine for the Blazers, value-wise. The execution of the assets you got back in the trade was not good, and that's all post-trade stuff. But the trade itself was fine if you capitalized on the assets you got and flipped the veterans, which Cronin failed to do before both of them got hurt. So I don't know how to say it. Look, it doesn't look good. It doesn't, because it's bad now that Robert Williams, you would think hypothetically, has zero trade value. You probably have to play most of the season till the All-Star break with little injury concerns to even have a chance at some value at the deadline. And then Brogdon, if his medicals are screwed, like I've heard they are, that's going to be tough to. I mean, what if he doesn't pass a physical in a trade or something, and we are stuck with him for another year? So there might be a case where we have no value in those two guys, when I think at one point or another you could have argued that we probably should have and could have gotten a first for both of them at different points.
Yeah, so the day the trade happened, I took a ton of heat for saying that I thought it was okay, but I wasn't doing victory laps like the rest of Blazer fans. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of, you just don't want to give Joe Cronin any credit, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of played out how I felt like it was going to play out. They bring in Robert Williams, and it's like, I don't know, I had a gut feeling they're not going to flip Robert Williams. I thought they were going to flip Malcolm Brogdon, but Malcolm Brogdon had a trade nixed because he couldn't take a physical when he was simply getting traded for the 30th pick in last year's draft, and that was it. So it's like, okay, does he really have that much value? Right? And I thought they would flip Malcolm Brogdon before the season, because it didn't really make much sense to go into the season with him when you have 3 other young guards that you're building around. But ultimately, that's what they did. But essentially, you traded for 2 injury-prone players, a Golden State pick that ended up being much better than I thought, but it's still the 14th pick. Like, there's a very good chance that they miss on that, don't get anything back for that. And it's a 2029 Boston first. Like, Boston is as likely as any team.
We're back.
Oh, man. Xfinity, guys. Xfinity drives me up a wall. Drives me up a wall.
Stream just ended.
Oh, it ended. You sure about that?
I don't know.
Refresh it.
It went to Padres versus Athletics post-game show on Hogwatch.
That's funny. You've been watching some Hogwatch, huh?
Not very often. I don't know why I thought looking.
That's funny.
It's back now. Wow. Okay.
I don't know, guys. I don't know. My internet's rough. Anyway, shout out to the people that watch this back after the fact and only get to deal with the hiccups instead of the long periods of lag. It's brutal out here. Damn, I got kicked to Hoops Crush. Shout out to One Piece for watching Hoops Crush. Anyway, as I was saying, I was worried because they're bringing in 2 injury-prone players. I didn't think Malcolm Brogdon had much trade value. I had a gut feeling they were going to keep Robert Williams into the season, and it was not going to go well. I said they should flip both those guys before the season. A lot of people told me, why would you want to flip Robert Williams? He's the type of center we've been waiting for. And the rebuttal was, of course, we have DeAndre Ayton. Why do you need to go into the season with Robert Williams in a rebuild mode when you have DeAndre Ayton, right? And then the picks. Didn't have much faith in either of them being good. Could they have gotten back better? I don't know. And at the time, I didn't think the trade was bad, but I thought there was some serious downside to that trade that gave me pause when we made it. And a lot of people thought it was just like Cronin hate, and now it's kind of played out exactly like I thought it might play out, where the return now, as you said, talking about the execution of this trade, it just doesn't look that good. I think it's fine. It's not something for me to necessarily criticize, but I don't know. The victory laps after that trade didn't make any sense to me, and this is why.
Yeah, you owe Cronin an apology, Tori. No, see, the funny thing is, Anthony gets hurt first game. Scoop gets hurt shortly thereafter, and then Brogdon actually, he played decent for a good stretch. That's when they should have traded him. We didn't, unlike Grant and Thibault, we didn't have to wait till January 15th to trade him. We could have traded him at any point in the season. But the minute he showed anything and seemed healthy, we should have gotten rid of him. And I mean, you can say that's hindsight all you want. Obviously, it seems like hindsight since he got hurt and didn't play leading up to the trade deadline and after the trade deadline. But it's not like we weren't on these streams saying that the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, I was begging for them to flip both guys before the season. It's going to be fascinating to look back on this Dame trade once the Milwaukee and Boston picks actually convey, because if both those teams are really good, the Dame trade does not look good, Eric. You probably could have found a way to get Ayton without the Dame trade, right? Just the way things were reported, there's debate amongst fans about, would Phoenix have actually traded Ayton without Grayson Allen in the deal if it was somebody else other than Grayson Allen, yada, yada, yada. But I think it was clear that they wanted to move on from him, and he didn't want to be there. And they valued Nurk as a replacement. We can agree or disagree and argue about whether that was the right move, but it doesn't really matter, you know. So at the end of the day, the jury's still out on the Dame trade. And we have to wait until 2029 to determine whether or not it truly paid off or not. Because if we're getting the first overall pick in 2029 because the Bucks suck and we have their unprotected first, that trade looks really, really good. But that was part of the problem I had with a Dame trade, was you're getting back speculative assets. You're not getting back anything concrete at all. The most concrete thing you got back, you could argue Ayton. You could argue Kamara, right? The Suns part of the trade. That's the only thing, but that was negotiated separately. Mm-hmm. So if you want to look at the other parts of the trade, Milwaukee and Boston, which Milwaukee got Dame, Boston got Drew. You know what I mean? So you should be able to get something concrete back from one of those teams. And all you got back was the 14th pick in this year's draft and a future 2029 unprotected first from Milwaukee and Boston. Okay, that's great. But it's not like you got any other pick capital on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like you got a really good young prospect back from one of those teams. So it just feels a little bit low because Brogdon and Robert Williams were pitched as being really good assets to get back because of what the Blazers could ultimately flip them for. But they took two injury-prone veterans into a rebuilding season, and they both dealt with injuries, and now their trade value is going to suffer because of it. So, yeah, that's just kind of where we're at right now. I mean, we'll have to see this offseason what the Blazers get back for Brogdon. If they keep Brogdon, if they keep Williams going into next season, then I think this trade looks even worse, to be honest. If they can get something good back for Brogdon, of course, that makes the trade look better.
Yeah. So, right now, if there was a point last season, like even with hindsight, Evan Fournier and the 25th pick, it ended up being, I think they have 24 and 25, but let's just say it was 25. Okay. Would you take that right now for Brogdon?
So Evan Fournier is basically an expiring, right? He's
Yeah,
like
I think he is.
non-guaranteed this year or something.
Non-guaranteed. Yep.
No, because we have the 30. We have the 14th. We have 7, 14, and 34, and 40, like 25.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even trust them to draft the right player with that 25th pick, and it's like, since you already have those 4 first, like, would rather get an early second in a future draft.